Today I'm talking about a fully wireless 32-bit float microphone that has its quirks, but might just be my new favorite affordable audio solution for content creation. Let me explain. What's up nerds, welcome back to the channel. So this is the brand new Comica VM40, the follow-up to the very popular VM30, which at the time was one of the first wireless shotgun microphones to exist at an affordable price point. Now my typical setup for recording audio in these talking head videos is with an Audio-Technica shotgun mic and a Zoom F3 audio recorder. And while this has been a great audio solution over the past few years, recording 32-bit float audio, that's an XLR dynamic microphone that requires a cable and a separate recorder to record the audio. Pretty typical, to be honest. But the Comica VM40 basically takes that entire setup and shoves it into one microphone. But the real question is, does it hold up in quality? Real quick, Comica did send me this microphone, but they are not sponsoring this video. No money changed hands, and they don't get to review this video before it goes out. So rest assured, my words are my own, and you can take them with a grain of salt. Now, when you purchase this microphone, right out of the box, you'll see a nice soft storage case for everything this setup has to offer, with two compartments holding the VM40 shotgun microphone, the wireless receiver for connection to your camera or smartphone, a sturdy shock mount, and an instrument stand/boom pole adapter for the shock mount. The second compartment holds all your accessories, like cables for your camera and phone, a USB-C to USB-A cable for charging and plugging into a computer, threading adapters, a foam pop filter, and a fluffy dead cat. Honestly, a lot of accessories for an affordable mic system. The microphone itself is a lightweight metal design that surprisingly feels really premium. On the top of the microphone, you'll see a small LCD screen and two buttons, a safety/wireless button and a record button. If you long press the safety/wireless button, this will turn the microphone on and off. On the side of the microphone, you'll also see a USB-C output as well as a 3.5mm jack. On the bottom of the microphone is a dial to change the gain of the microphone from 0 to 10. Single pressing the record button will activate a low cut filter, and press it again and that will activate the high frequency boost filter. Press it one more time and both of these filters will be activated at the same time. Holding down the record button will start and stop your recordings. Single pressing the safety button will switch from a safety track to a normal recording. I highly recommend browsing through the instructions when you first get this thing because there's a lot of hidden features with those long presses that can get confusing and are not very user intuitive. Like when you want to access the internal recording files, which this microphone does record internally, you have to long press both buttons at the same time when the microphone is off, and this will enter the copy mode. And that will allow you to connect this to a computer to get the files off of the microphone. Now, the microphone itself records in a 48 kilohertz 32-bit float internally. If you don't know what 32-bit float is, it basically is a recording of a much higher dynamic range of your audio. So I can scream really loud into the microphone and then get really quiet without clipping my audio. 32-bit float has become pretty common in a lot of audio systems lately, but this is the first time I've seen it internally in a boom mic like this. For internal storage, you have 32 gigabytes of onboard recording, which gives you about 40 hours of 32-bit float. The microphone will give you 10 hours of battery life wireless, and then connected to USB-C, you can get up to 32 hours of battery life. Now moving on to the receiver itself, because this does connect to a receiver that you can connect to a smartphone or a camera. As far as build quality goes, it's a plastic design, has a little bit of an OLED screen on the top. There are 3 buttons on the bottom of the receiver to control all of your settings. In the center, you have a power/mode button, which if you long press, this will turn on the receiver, and then single pressing it will change the different modes of the receiver from mono to stereo to safety. The 2 buttons on the opposite sides are both channel buttons for channel 1 and channel 2, which by the way, you can purchase this system in a stereo setup, meaning you get 2 microphones with the receiver so you can record a left and a right channel if you wanted to have multiple subjects, multiple recordings at the time. But those 2 buttons do change the gain of your output to your camera, but long pressing the channel 2 button will activate the internal recording in your microphone, and long pressing the channel 1 button will change the denoise settings within the receiver, which the system does have a couple of denoise modes, which we'll go over in just a minute. You also have a USB-C out, a 3.5mm out, and a headphone jack. The receiver records 24-bit at 192 kilohertz to your camera or smartphone. You can also connect the receiver wirelessly to their mobile app to monitor your settings and activate recordings as well. All right, so what you guys are all probably wondering, how's the audio quality? Well, first of all, you've been listening to it this entire video, but of course, let's go over some quick raw audio tests and comparisons. All right, so far in this entire video, you've been listening to the Comica VM40's internal 32-bit float mixed. Let's switch over to the raw audio. So now you're listening to the raw internal 32-bit float from the Comica VM40. Now for the sake of comparison, we're gonna compare the 32-bit float of the Comica VM40 to the 24-bit 192 kilohertz internally in the camera. So I'm also recording internally into my Sony a7 IV, and then we also have my Audio-Technica AT875R connected to my Zoom F3, recording 32-bit float at 192 kilohertz. We'll do a comparison between each of those to see the sound differences between the two. Now I've tried to set these microphones as close as I possibly could. They are about 2 inches apart from each other, and they're about 6 inches away from my mouth, boomed just above me. But this is the Comica VM40, and this is the Audio-Technica with the Zoom F3. All right, so for this test, I'll be reading a random inspirational quote that I found off the internet. Let's start with the raw 32-bit float from the Comica VM40. The future is an unknown, but somewhat predictable unknown. To look to the future, we must first look back upon the past. That is where the seeds of the future were planted. All right, so now the 24-bit within the camera. The future is an unknown, but a somewhat predictable unknown. To look to the future, we must first look back upon the past. That is where the seeds of the future were planted. And now comparison between the Comica VM40 and the Audio-Technica. The future is an unknown, but a somewhat predictable unknown. To look to the future, we must first look back upon the past. That is where the seeds of the future were planted. The future is an unknown, but a somewhat predictable unknown. To look to the future, we must first look back upon the past. That is where the seeds of the future were planted. All right, that's basically all the tests. You guys can let me know which one you think sounded better in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys think. If you want to hear the full sound and experience with these, I'd highly recommend using headphones, because through an iPhone speaker or computer speaker may not be the best experience, but you know, you do you. So one cool thing about this microphone is it does have a denoise feature. This only affects the 24-bit recordings, not the 32-bit internal inside the microphone. So I have the receiver connected to my Sony a7 IV right now. We're next to this river to simulate a denoise scenario. So right now the denoise is turned off, but I'm going to use the Comica app to turn it on to low. So now you're listening to this microphone with the low noise feature. This is the first setting, and this one actually seems workable. I'm usually not a big fan of denoise features inside of audio systems like this, but this setting, the low setting, I like that there's two that you can mess with in different scenarios, because this one actually sounds decently good. I felt like it was actually removing a fair amount of the water without ruining too much of the EQ on my voice. So now I'm going to switch to high. And this is where you have that really common issue with a lot of denoise functions inside of microphones, is that my voice starts to sound underwater. And yeah, it does a really good job of cleaning up the background noise, but then all of a sudden my talking voice just doesn't sound nearly as good. I like to do this in post. I like to get rid of a lot of background noise and sounds in post-production using the EQ or compressor, expander, or gate. But for somebody who doesn't know how to do those things and just wants to have it internal in their recordings, a beginner, this is actually a pretty cool feature. I definitely think that I would keep it on low and very rarely go to the high setting. All right, so now we're back to recording internal 32-bit float inside this microphone. While I'm here, I thought I'd do a test of off-axis rejection. So right now my mouth is about 6 inches away from this microphone. I'm talking directly into it. So I'm just gonna rotate the mic, and you can definitely start to notice that my voice starts to fade a little bit. Right here is where you want the least amount of rejection. I'm gonna turn it back around. So now I am 180 degrees. I'm directly behind the microphone. You might hear my voice just a little bit more. This is where you should start to hear me the least, is this 90 degree, hopefully. Like that's how this microphone should work. That's how we know it sounds pretty good. And then back to directly on. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. I think the pros of this microphone is the surprising build quality. It maintains a lightweight function while still feeling super premium. Along with premium, the gain dial on the bottom feels really nice. There's a good amount of friction to it. It makes me feel like I'm not gonna accidentally change the gain if I bump this microphone. The wireless feature of this microphone is so fun. The fact that I can just run and gun, grab this microphone, use it as a handheld mic, throw it on this stand, don't need to have a recorder, don't even need to connect it to my camera necessarily, just hit the record button and I'm good to go. And the fact that it's an internal 32-bit float is just a massive bonus. I also really appreciate the storage bag. I think Comica really thought this out. It's something that some brands don't really think about, but they definitely put a lot of effort into the design to make sure that you can have all your accessories. As far as cons for this microphone go, I don't have a lot, but I do have some. First of all, the shock mount is not my favorite. It feels just kind of stiff. Granted, it holds the microphone really well. I am confident that this shock mount will not come loose of my microphone, but what I'm not so confident in is the hot shoe or cold shoe that it attaches to. So if you wanted to throw this on a camera, like I was doing as like an on-camera shotgun mic, the hot shoe would easily come loose and would either slide back and forth like it is right now, or it would just kind of slide off of the cold shoe attachment. But yeah, the shoe just was not my favorite, and the tightening mechanisms do come loose often. Now I get that long pressing buttons to activate settings is to avoid accidentally pressing them, but I feel like they're just a little too long. And kind of the opposite, when you press them again to turn off the setting, it doesn't feel nearly as long as it did when I was actually activating it. It makes me second guess myself when I'm pressing it. It makes me be like, oh, is it not working? Do I need to try it again? I think the time of that long press could definitely be cut down. Now the denoise function does sound like you're underwater a little bit. I'd rather do this in post, but that first setting of denoise was better than I thought. All right, my overall thoughts and recommendations after using this microphone for a few weeks. I believe this microphone is best suited for content creators and beginner filmmakers. I can also see this being really awesome for podcasters or videographers doing corporate shoots or weddings. In my opinion, this microphone is not for professionals. If you're thinking of becoming a high-end audio professional that is going to work on commercial sets and film sets and feature film sets and stuff like that, then this microphone probably is not going to be the first on your list. Most professionals running audio on a set will be using much higher end systems that cost thousands of dollars. I think what makes this mic system so amazing is actually in the price. $250 is an absolute banger. My Zoom F3 and Audio-Technica mic setup is close to $500. So not only is this kit half the price, it's also half the size. Now, as far as audio quality goes, I think that for the price, it is a really good option. It's not the best audio that I've heard from a 32-bit float system, and I think my Audio-Technica and Zoom F3 sounded just slightly better. Honestly, I think I could go either way, but it's really hard to argue with the $250 price point. I'm curious to see how I feel about this microphone in about 3 to 5 months-ish. I'm planning to swap this out as my microphone for recording YouTube videos moving forward, so you guys will have to let me know if you can tell a difference in the audio quality, because if you don't, that's a good thing. Overall, I think this is a solid bang for buck, innovative 32-bit float mic system that has its quirks, but what budget microphone doesn't have its quirks? But what do you guys think? Is this microphone going to be the next addition to your video production kit? Or are you gonna save up and get yourself a Sennheiser MKH416 and a Sound Devices recorder? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you're interested in purchasing this microphone, there are links in the description. They are affiliate links, so if you do purchase from those links, it does support the channel. Thank you so much if you do. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe watch this video next, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.